Hey there, welcome to the UkeStuff channel and welcome to this full UkeGuide review of this instrument. This is the Ohana CK-35-8 Taropatch Mahogany Ukulele. I was able to buy this used recently, and I did previously review the spruce top model of this, which I was not totally in love with, and at the time of the review was waffling between whether I would sell it or whether I would keep it. I eventually sold it, but I did hold on to the case. That's an odd thing to talk about, a case, but with this really long headstock on a concert body, it makes it really hard to find a case that fits. And Ohana does make a case for it that they sell separately, and I knew that I wanted the full mahogany model. I just didn't know when that was going to happen, and it happened locally when someone decided to sell theirs. So this is Ohana's case that they carry for the CK-35, but it fits that extra headstock on the top. Now, as this used ukulele goes, there is one flaw with it. I'm not sure if this was a blem model or if this was a pristine model when it was bought. I believe it was bought from Mims Ukes, but there is a spot right here, if you can see, that is either worn or damaged, and I'm fine with that. It doesn't bother me in any way, and that part is actually always underneath my arm. And this is an instrument that I wanted. Now, if I had unlimited money, I would probably buy a Kawaii Taropatch. Recently saw one of those used for around $1,500 and had an email conversation with another Taropatch player. And the Taropatch, by the way, we should talk about that, historically is a concert-sized ukulele with 8 strings, but they're all tuned GCEA high G. And in fact, this model was tuned like an 8-string, which has a high G and a low G and a high C and a low C, or they might be flipped. I can't remember off the top of my head which one is which. There is a set way that you do that, but in a Taropatch, it's just all similar tuning, so it's sort of like playing with a couple people at once. It does make finger picking a little more challenging, and setup is crucial. We'll get to setup later, but if you're going to buy an 8-string of any kind, whether it's a Taropatch or an 8-string ukulele, setup is critical. You need to make sure that it's set up correctly, or it's going to be an unhappy playing experience for you. So do keep that in mind that if you're interested in an 8-string, I would even say a 5-string, a 6-string sort of ukulele, that setup is critical. And it's important who you buy it from so that they set it up, or that you know how to set it up yourself. But that's a lot of strings to deal with. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at some subjective categories that I look at with all instruments. Then we're going to talk over the specifications, and then I will summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating out of 5 possible ukuleles. So let's get into it. The cost. They are listed at Mims Ukes for $309.99, and that's the perfect models. She also occasionally carries blem models, and this might be one of those where they might have a small blemish, but they're still a perfectly usable ukulele for quite a bit less. So if you're interested in one of these Taropatches, whether the mahogany version or the spruce version, definitely check with Mim. And I don't know of many other vendors that carry these models. I'm sure they're out there, but Mim must be one of the world's largest dealers of Taropatches just because of Ohana's manufacturing of them. In terms of value, the price exceeds the value. Now, it's not exactly a cheap instrument by any means of the imagination, but the closest Taropatch now, there used to be a Pono that would have fallen in between, would be a Kawaii. And those, again, I believe are starting at $1,500 and above, and that's even used. And they're rare. They have to special order them to make them. I do wish that Martin would take their concert body and put on a Taropatch neck like they used to. Martin has been credited with founding the idea of the Taropatch. Not sure if that's true, but Martin could do that with their C1K in Mexico, sell them for something like $500, $550, $600, and I think they would sell quite a few of them with the Martin neck and the Martin sound and tradition, mahogany Martin uke. It's something that I have actually written Martin about. Of course, you don't get a response when you write, but that's what I would like to see. And if I ever see the Pono Taropatch on sale from someone, I may buy it. It's kind of a pain point because they went on a clearance sale at the ukulele site or Hawaii Music Supply a few years ago. They had produced a Taropatch. I guess they weren't selling well, so they really cleared them out at a cheap price, and they're gone. So you can't buy a new one. So the used ones float out there, but nobody sells them for the price that they bought them at. They always charge more for it. So I may eventually buy one of the Pono Taropatches too that's out there. And by the way, it makes sense that the ukulele site would have them because the owner of the ukulele site is the son and brother of the people that run Pono and then Kolau, which runs, of course, Pono. So with all those connections, it would make sense that they had the Pono Taropatches to offer. So if I ever see them, I'll buy one. Anyway, long story short is when you're talking a $300 instrument or $309 plus tax or whatever and shipping potentially, that's still a really good value when the next closest model is more than $1,000 more. So there you go. Now there is a company, I believe it's Noah Ukuleles in the UK, that sells a spruce top 8-string concert that you could also tune as a Taropatch, and that would be less expensive than $1,500, but I don't really know of any other Taropatches on the market. If you do, if you know more companies that make Taropatches, and we're not talking luthiers, but companies, please leave a comment below in this video and share where those are. I'll be happy to take a look at those as well. Now, so value is better than the price, but it's not a super value because, again, you don't get any accessories. So at the very least, this instrument should come with a gig bag, and since there's only one case that really fits it, Ohana should throw that in. I don't care if they have to raise the price of the instrument to include the really fine case, but it should automatically come with it or a gig bag that fits. In terms of the build quality, it's excellent. It appears flawless. And again, I don't know if that blemish was there from the factory or if that happened with the owner that I bought this from. Again, I'm not mad about it. I was able to buy this at a discount, so I'm happy. It doesn't hurt my playability or enjoyment of the instrument at all. But if it was a blemish, then that'd be something to worry about. But in that case, it wasn't sold as a new item. So either way, but as you look at it otherwise, it's a traditionally appearing ukulele, and we'll get to appearance in a moment, but it is really well made, as Ohanas are known to be. So it's high quality mahogany, it's thinner mahogany, it's a traditional build, and it's a very clean build overall. One of the things I do in these videos is I let you see what's happening on the inside of the ukulele. I call this the internal Uke Cam, but it's just an endoscope that is connected to my iPad as I'm recording. So let's take a look at the inside. There's the Ohana label. You can see the quality of the wood behind it. You have a horizontal brace there and a second horizontal brace. As we look further into the instrument, move it around a little bit, you can see that it is a string through a bridge, and I have added some beads where the beads didn't come with the original strings. You can see the tail block where there is a strap button connected as well. You can see that it's a clean build. Looks like they might have even used a block of mahogany for the tail block. That's unusual. There's a bridge plate, and you can see the strings come right through the bridge plate. And it's a very narrow bridge plate on this instrument as well, which is kind of surprising. No glue mess at all to be seen. All right, let's look at the upper bout. Okay, can't get too far back with the upper bout because the horizontal braces stop me, but you can see one of the braces on the very, very top. If I get the angle right there, you can see the notch kerfing, which is clean. You can see the neck block. No glue mess at all. High quality mahogany. All really good things to see here. So that's our really quick look at the inside of the Ohana CK-35-8 ukulele. So build quality is good. The looks are very classic. You do have binding. You do have purfling on the side. It's white, black, white. You have a rosette. You have the Ohana logo on the top. Got this other shaped headstock, not a crown, which is nice. Ohana doesn't use a lot of crowns. And it's just a very classic looking ukulele made out of mahogany. So it's plain, but this really is what I wanted. This I like a lot more than the spruce. Nothing wrong with the spruce. It was just too bright and I didn't like the looks of it. This appeals more to my sort of traditional interest in ukuleles. As for availability, really the one place again that I would suggest looking for these is at Mim's Ukes. And Mim has these new, and she also occasionally has B stock models. So I would give her a call and see what she has and see what she can do for you. Make sure though that you try to order the case if she has them, because there's no other place to find those. As for playability, there are a couple things to keep in mind here. First of all, the nut width is 38 millimeters out of necessity because you have to facilitate 4 sets of 2 strings. All right, so 4 courses of 2 strings. And you need that extra space there. The action on this instrument is perfect. So that's again why I think it was bought from Mims. But at the same time, again, if you are going to buy an 8-string of any kind, please focus on the setup. That is essential on one of these instruments. As such, it's pretty easy to play for an 8-string, but you are fighting 2 strings at a time, regardless of the string that you press down. So bar chords can require a little extra thinking around and being prepared for than just if you had 4 strings. I think that's the one thing. So playability, the build here generally works. The only other negative for me is the thick neck. And I am tempted to take this instrument to a luthier that I know in the area and ask them to modify the shape of this neck. I am not worried about this neck holding because of some specific thickness. It's just Ohana's necks to me have always been on the thicker, rounder edge. I'd like a different profile there. And that's my only criticism of Ohana. And otherwise, I love the brand. I just wish that the necks were more D-shaped than C-shaped. It is really round. And that may be to an extreme because of the 8-string. It might have been a decision because of the amount of tension of the strings. But I just think it's part of just Ohana's standard design is this really round neck, and I would like a thinner neck. So that impacts playability as well. In terms of sound quality, if you like a Taropatch, you're going to have great sound here. It's excellent sound. Even with fluorocarbon strings, and these are Martin M600s that I put on it because, again, it was originally strung as an 8-string, it's loud. And it should be with a light mahogany soundboard, very thin mahogany soundboard, 8 strings, even for a darker wood. Now, where the spruce was, it was too bright for me. I even tried other strings. I think I had at one point Worth Browns that tend to be a little more mellow. Still too bright for me. This is, for me, just the right amount of tone for me for what I'm looking for from a Taropatch. The volume is good. It's not the loudest. So could you imagine if Koaloha made a Taropatch and how loud that would be? So, but you get that Taropatch effect because no matter what you do, the strings will be slightly out of tune with each other at some point. The intonation will change a little bit, and you get sort of a chorus effect with everything you play. And I really like that, especially if I'm playing just strumming. Picking is a little different matter, right? So if you're picking, that sounds a little strange. Now, we're used to hearing that in some famous rock songs with a 12-string guitar and things like that. But otherwise, it's a really unique sound. I like it. It's bright. It's on the brighter edge because I'm running the Martins, but it's not overly bright. It still has balance, which I really like. Now, one of the things I do in these videos is I let you see what I'm hearing by playing the instrument into the app Tonal Energy Tuner. This instrument, when I bought it, had a low G string on it, so it would have had a very different feel when it had that tuning. But now as a Taropatch, a true Taropatch, let's see what it does. I don't know if you caught that, but there's a timer that shows how long the sound goes, and it was reaching 6 seconds with sustain. Now, I've had instruments that sustain a lot. This one doesn't feel overly so, but it definitely does have sustain. You get that full widespread effect with the full sound spectrum when you strum the chord, and then it has some nice sustain on the low end at the very, very end. So, yeah, I do like this tone a lot. It is brighter than it's dark, partially by string choice, but by the wood, it's not overly bright, and that really appeals to me. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories, let's get into the specifications. This is a concert scale instrument with a scale length from the nut to the saddle of 14.9375 inches, so a touch short of 15 inches. It has 19 frets with 14 to the body, and it does have side position markers, which, oddly enough, are crooked if you see them. That doesn't bother me, but I'm sure there's somebody out there that would be very upset at the positioning of those side position markers. The body style is a traditional double bout ukulele. Feels a little thicker than perhaps normal. The soundboard is solid mahogany. The back and sides are solid mahogany, and it's really prettily done. The fretboard is rosewood, as is the string through bridge. And I do like the string through bridge because that puts most of the force of the strings on the back side of the soundboard, which has a bridge support plate, and then the bridge itself, so that the bridge isn't trying to hold on the force of these 8 strings. That's really good thinking, good design. It is not a radius fretboard, and the nut and saddle are bone. It is not a compensated saddle, it's straight across. The finish is a satin finish. It's not gloss, although I'm sure over the years of me playing it, that satin will turn into gloss. The overall length is 25.875 inches from the bottom of the ukulele to the tip of the ukulele, not counting the strap button here, which is at more than 2 inches longer than most concerts, which is why this won't fit into a standard concert case. It weighs 1 pound, 6.5 ounces, and you can bet that most of the weight is in the neck, both in this really chunky baseball bat-like neck, but also in all these tuners up here. There are different ways that I suppose you could approach tuners to keep that lighter, but it's fine. You do have to be aware that when you're playing a Taropatch, that almost every one of them is going to be neck heavy, and it is significantly so. The tuners are rear-facing tuners. You get 8 of them, of course. And this is where the setup is amazing. Again, I believe attributed to Mims Ukes. The action at the first fret is 0.36 millimeters there, but there's no buzzing anywhere along the way on any of the strings. And then the action at the 12th fret here is 2.21 millimeters, which is nice and low as well. So you will probably not find a better setup Taropatch than this one. Equally set up, but not better. The setup is amazing. The nut width is 37.74 millimeters, and so just under 38 millimeters. Has to be that wide for the 4 courses of strings. And the space between strings at the first fret, this is what's going to differ from a traditional GCA instrument, is only 6.98 millimeters, and I don't measure in between the 2 courses of strings themselves. They're right next to each other. That means 32.08 G to A, so it's going to feel a little tighter than usual because the strings end up being closer to each other. And then the final thing I check is the depth of the neck at the 3rd fret, and this one is really thick. It is 23.83 millimeters from the top of the strings at the 3rd fret to the bottom of the neck. That's just too thick. So with all sincerity, I may again be taking this to a luthier to ask if they can sand it down. And I did save enough buying this used that it would justify the extra cost to have the neck worked on to make this instrument more ideal. Not really for the weight, but for the comfort in playing it. All right, now that we've talked about the subjective categories and the specifications, let's summarize the instrument and give it a UkeGuide rating out of 5 possible ukuleles. I did have the CK-70-8 spruce top Taropatch from Ohana, which I had bought from Mims, and I liked it, but it was just too bright for me. I tend to shy away from spruce tops, and I think in all my ukuleles I only have two that are spruce tops. I just am not a fan of super, super bright ukuleles. I do like a bright, sparkly sound, but I don't like it too bright. I had a Koaloha Opio that had a spruce top that I also sold because it was just too bright. That's okay. We all have different preferences. I did hold on to the case though because I knew this instrument existed. This is again the CK-35-8. It's all mahogany. So mahogany is a much more mellow tone wood than spruce. I just didn't know when I was going to buy one. And then in our local ukulele groups, someone posted they had one of these for sale. And I reached out to them and said, hey, if you don't sell it, let me know. And down the road, I'll buy it from you. And that all worked out. And here it is. This is now mine. And this one will not be leaving my ownership unless I buy something like a Kawaii Taropatch or something like that. I don't think I'd buy a vintage Taropatch. I think I'd be led to a more modern Taropatch. But realistically, this one's probably staying with me. Now, some other companies have made these. Ohana is really the largest company right now to still keep these in stock. Although, again, you can buy them from Kawaii. And again, I believe Noah Ukuleles as well has a 8-string concert that you could string as a Taropatch. There might be a couple more out there, but the catch is it has to be a concert body with a concert neck to be called a Taropatch, and generally it's going to be tuning of G, C, E, A, and that's what makes a Taropatch a Taropatch. So this instrument has everything that you want from a Taropatch. It has that jangly sound. It's affordable, used or new, and it has a warmer tone than the CK-70-8 that I didn't fall in love with. The only two negatives really for me on this instrument are the super thick neck and the very heavy headstock. I'm not sure how you can deal with the headstock, but I do know how you can deal with the neck, which would be a change in design. So just as a message to not only Ohana, but most of the companies that import ukuleles, it's time to start working on these neck shape to make them more narrow and D-shaped rather than C-shaped. I understand that there is a point that these were cut by hand, but these necks have been being made by CNC routers for some time, and it's simply a program change. It just has to be made once to change the enjoyment of playing for everyone. So that's really my request. So definitely would recommend this instrument. I'd recommend the spruce top one too if you like a bright sound, but this was really for me, and I'm so glad to have added this to my collection. So what rating would I give it? This one gets a 4.5 out of 5 possible ukuleles for me, with its two big downfalls, again being the thickness of the neck, and then the fact that it doesn't come with a gig bag and you have to buy the case separately. Again, I'd prefer that Ohana either packaged a gig bag or the case with it, and it costs more to buy the ukulele than just to worry about whether or not you buy one of these and can you find a case for it. Really, there should be a solution built in with an instrument as special and somewhat rare in the ukulele world as a Taropatch. All right, so that's our full UkeGuide review of this instrument. I thank you so much for joining me for it. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll be back soon with some more Uke stuff for you.